What's up, guys? This is Thursday, and we call it Thoughtful Thursday. So the topic of today is going to be, should you buy from a deal sourcer or not? What are the pros and cons? So I've got my guest on, Alasdair Cunningham, and you are a deal sourcer.
Certainly am.
And you've been packaging and selling deals for a year or so.
Yep.
I reckon, I don't know what the largest or most successful deal packaging company in the country is. I don't know, but you must be up there, one of the best, if not the best.
I believe so. I believe that we are the quickest and the best at matching investors to properties.
And how many properties do you package and sell each month?
About 18, 22, something like that.
That's a lot of properties.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? Let's just really discuss this as it's Thoughtful Thursday. Let's look at the pros and cons.
Let's get thoughtful about
Let's
it.
get thoughtful about this. As someone watching this, someone who's interested in getting into property, would you advise someone buy from a sourcer, or should they just find their own properties?
I think, it's a question I get a lot, and I think it depends on the person. It depends on the investor. It depends on their knowledge level. It depends on things like how much time they've got. I believe that anyone that buys from a sourcer should know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody should buy from a sourcer as a complete beginner.
The problem is, there's just so many bad sources.
That's why I think they should all know what they're looking at.
But even if they're buying from a good sourcer, I personally, I used to source properties and package them and sell them. I don't do it anymore. I know you do it. I know we work together. But I don't do it anymore because I am so passionate that I think the best thing to do is to just get the knowledge.
I think everyone should have the knowledge. I think the knowledge is key.
So if you think everyone should get the knowledge and source properties themselves, then is that not a little bit hypocritical, you then running a sourcing company?
No, because I think everybody should have the knowledge so they know what they're looking at. But I deal with many investors that just simply do not have the time. They've got the knowledge, but they don't have the time.
I guess I buy properties.
Well, yeah, you've bought properties through me because you've got the knowledge, but you don't have the time.
That's true.
We, as a company, we're not really looking for investors that have never bought property and have never done the knowledge.
Well, the ironic thing is, the worst type of investors to sell a deal to are newbies.
I believe so, yeah.
That was my experience.
Yeah, I was being polite. Yeah, they are.
yeah, because newbies, number one, they ask 1,000,001 questions.
Yeah.
And they may as well get the training anyway.
Yeah.
Number two, they just don't know what a good deal is.
No. The problem I see a lot is when newbies come along, they see this, what they think is a good deal, then they go out and view it, but because their expectations are, they feel that because they're buying from a source, so like it's 100% guaranteed results, it's 100% guaranteed rental income, and like it needs minimal work. They don't really listen properly when you're speaking to them about it.
And also, they'll sign the terms and conditions and stuff
without reading it.
But then they won't read it properly. And they'll only hear what they want to hear.
Yeah.
So
100%.
And then 6 months later, if there's any issues, if there's a leak on the roof, it'll be your fault.
Yeah.
And suddenly, it's like, geez, if I could pay someone £2,000 to make sure that I had guaranteed that the property was always going to be filled, it was always going to be filled with good tenants, there was never ever going to be any maintenance issues or problems with the house, there wasn't going to be any problems or hold-ups with the solicitors, everything was going to go perfect, I'd pay my £2,000-3,000 every time.
I'd pay 10 grand every time, I think, because it'd be much better.
But no, if you could guarantee, when you were selling a property, if you could guarantee that, then you wouldn't charge 2 or 3 grand. You'd charge 10 or 20 grand.
Exactly. The thing is, it all comes down to expectations.
What is it then? What are they paying for? If someone pays you £3,000 or whatever it is, what are they actually paying you for?
So they're paying for us doing the legwork, essentially. So a busy investor that hasn't got time to travel, traipse the country, looking at all these houses. For instance, for us to find one house, we've probably looked at 12 to 14 properties.
Yeah.
And we've done all the legwork looking at them houses. So we might spend a day and a half on the road to look at one house and to find one successful deal. So we've done the legwork, we've done the due diligence, we've found local agents, we've assessed the property, the condition, and we've done basically all the legwork for them. But it's not a guarantee that it's going to rent out. We've done the homework to make sure that there's good rental demand.
Yeah, but presumably if someone's buying from you, it's a package deal, so you'll have done the due diligence on the property.
Absolutely.
You'll give them the facts and the spreadsheets and the figures and put them in touch with the agents and all that kind of stuff. But again, it's not a 100% guarantee.
No. And
because
that's
nothing's guaranteed.
No, of course it's not. What I have had a few instances where we have sold properties and they've been completed 3 or 4 months, and then you get a phone call from them because there's suddenly a problem in the property, like electrics or something goes wrong, and they're wanting like us to refund them the finder's fee because the property had a problem 6 months later.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's not realistic. Come on, we're introducing them to a property.
Yeah.
They've got to be realistic.
And before
about
completion, they've had however long it takes, 2 months, 3 months, to do all their own research.
Surveys.
And do all the surveys and do all the stuff. So, okay, so you're buying from a deal packager to save yourself time.
Yeah.
Is there ever anything wrong with buying from a deal packager because you don't know how to find the deals? Like, would it be a fair enough thing? You say someone's reasonably new, they're a business person, they understand investments, but they haven't got the knowledge to go and find HMOs. They haven't got the understanding, and they say, look, I'll pay you 2, 3, 4 grand, whatever it is, and I just want you to just figure it all out for me, or not.
There is a case for that, as long as they understand the risks of that. Because if they don't understand what a good investment is, they need to understand the risks of just putting their faith in somebody else. Now, I do have a lot of people do that. I have a lot of overseas investors do that. They don't have. They're not going to come over here and look, and they've got the knowledge to look at the numbers, but they're not going to. They don't even actually go and view the property, for instance.
Yeah.
So they're sort of taking my word on reputation. However, what I do see as well, if I get like a complete newbie come up to me, I listen to them on the phone, and if I'm not convinced they know what they're talking about, I just send them the crash course. I just say, look, just get the crash course, mate.
The safest thing to do, in my opinion, the safest investment is to invest in yourself.
I believe so, yeah. 100%.
I think so. If you invest in a property, it can go wrong. If you invest in a property sourcer and pay them a fee, it can go wrong. If you invest in yourself and get the knowledge, no one can ever take that away from you.
Yeah, and you can't blame anybody else for it going wrong. That's the thing.
Well, what is the only thing that can go wrong when you invest in yourself is that you don't implement.
Yeah.
But that's down to you.
It's down to you.
As long as you're investing in the right kind of knowledge.
100%.
As long as you're not going, But I personally think deal packaging is great. I think it's a great way to save time. I've just paid Paul and Anne a few £1,000s, and they found me a great property. And my thinking is, well, if I'd have found that myself, it would have taken me at least a couple of days.
Yeah.
Because also, when you view properties with estate agents, like these days, 50% of the time, the estate agent doesn't show up or they cancel at the last minute.
Case in point,
I can't be bothered
to
stand outside in the rain.
Yeah.
Calling the agent. I'd rather pay Paul and Anne 3 grand.
I know, 100%.
I know how to find it myself.
Yeah.
But it's going to take me a couple of days and
it's not worth
messing around. I've got to drive up probably 3 hours away, depending on where it is. So I'd rather pay someone a fee.
I mean, last Thursday, I was out with a couple of people for a day of viewings. We had 11 viewings booked. We only got inside 5 houses.
There we go. And that's
because
some of them sell.
Some of them. Well, what it was tenants wouldn't let us in. Agents didn't show up.
Yeah.
And that is day-to-day life of property sourcing.
Now, for a deal packager, maybe that's... now, you've got a deal packaging business.
Yes.
So you've got staff. It's a bit different for you.
Yeah.
But for someone that's just starting out and they're brand new and they're deal packaging, if an estate agent doesn't turn up, it's not a massive deal because they're learning.
Yeah.
And they're out on the road and they're learning. And for a lot of people just starting out, if you can sell 1 deal a month and make 3 grand... Like, geez, take 2 or 3 days to find a deal, package it, sell it, and then take the rest of the month off.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, everyone is at a different season in their life. Mm-hmm. Everyone's at a different season. But, sometimes I'll sell deals. Yeah. I'll come across, although I don't set out to sell deals, if I come across an opportunity and I'm like, you know what, it's great, but it's outside of my patch, or it doesn't fit my strategy, or I've just got so much going on right now, I can't buy it, I'll pass it on. And I'll charge a fee.
Yeah.
But then, the next week or the next month, I'll pay someone a fee.
Yeah, I know.
And that happens all the time in the academy. People,
yes, it does.
Sometimes people will sell, sometimes people will buy.
I think it's a strategy that everyone should have in their toolbox.
I do.
But it should be like anything. So when you're going looking at houses, if you can't buy it, you've got that knowledge and strategy that you can then pass it on. So I would never discount deal sourcing or deal packaging.
It does concern me sometimes though with all these people selling, especially when people are selling rent to SA deals, and I'm just thinking, if it's a no money down rent to SA deal, then why are you selling it?
Yeah. I'll tell you the real reason why is because most of them don't stack.
They don't.
They don't stack.
So they'll rather charge 5 grand, make a quick pop.
Yeah.
And then disappear, I would be very careful.
Do you know what I hate? And you see this day to day on social media. People advertising deals on social media. So like advertising like the latest rent deal, the latest sort of whatever deal they've got.
Why do you hate that?
Because they don't stack. They don't. They just do not
But
stack
if it
up.
did stack, would you mind it?
No, because I think it's unprofessional.
Why is it unprofessional?
Well, advertising a deal on Facebook. No.
Well, I advertise my crash course on Facebook.
No. Yeah, but you don't. No, I just don't agree with it.
No. What's wrong with advertising your deal? If it's a good deal, it stacks.
It's unprofessional. I think it's unprofessional because I would rather advertise my service on Facebook and get the customer into my database as opposed to just doing a one.
Okay. What's the? I don't understand.
Right, I'll tell you why. Right, because if you advertise a deal on Facebook, you might get 2 or 3 people message you.
Yeah.
Whereas if you advertise your service on Facebook, they might
What's
not get
the
interested.
difference? What is your service?
Well, as a deal packager. So if you're advertising my mailing list on Facebook.
Yeah.
So for instance, say an investor sees the deal but they're not interested in it, so they won't contact you. But if they know that you're a deal packager and you do lots of different deals, they'll be more inclined to join your list.
I'm not going to argue because at the end of the day, you're the best in the country at this. And when you have deals, I know you sell them within minutes.
I sold 2 deals this morning. So
Yeah, and you do. And you drop an email out and it sells within minutes. I think the scariest thing is people advertising deals on Facebook that don't stack, especially when they, haven't got a reputation, haven't got any comeback, haven't got terms and conditions.
What I'd say to anybody that's going to buy off a deal sourcer is understand the deal yourself and make sure, don't just think because you're buying it from a deal sourcer that it's a guaranteed. It's not. You must
also find out what
deal.
the comeback is.
Yeah.
So, if the deal goes wrong, because whenever you go into any business decision, you need to always look at best case, worst case, likely case. If the worst case, if the deal packager is saying, look, if the figures aren't what I said, and if it turns out to not work out, and you're not happy once you've viewed the property and stuff like that, then you can get a refund. So, then that's not a problem because, worst case is I'll get a refund, especially if the deal packager's got a reputation.
Yeah.
So they will have to do what they say because otherwise they'll be damaging their reputation. No problem. But always look at what's the best case, what's the worst case, what's the likely case.
Yeah.
Worst case, if the worst case will financially cripple you, then don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't get a loan out.
No.
Don't get a loan out of a bank or borrow money from your grandma to put it all in with some deal sourcer that's promised you the world, who you've just met on Facebook. Just be sensible. I'm all for taking action.
Common sense prevails massively.
But unfortunately, there are people, that will.
I think what happens is, especially people that are new to property, they get so excited about getting that first deal that they gloss over all the imperfections.
And they think if it's a rent to rent, it must be brilliant.
Yeah.
But no, is it a good rent to rent?
Yeah.
Also,
just because it's no money down doesn't mean you should take it.
No, because it might be no money down, but then you might lose money monthly.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, there's also I know there's scams going on like places like Gumtree.
Yep.
On from the other side, from landlords that I don't know if you've seen this. Yeah, they pretend that they're tied landlords and they go, "Oh yeah, I'm happy to give it you on a rent to rent," but actually the property doesn't exist. Do you know about this?
And they put it on Airbnb.
Yeah.
They say, I'll tell you what, just pay for 6 months on Airbnb, and then we'll sort out contracts come out of the country. Yeah, I've seen it.
So again, how would you avoid?
Again, common sense. Don't pay anything to I don't know, common sense, mate.
What is common sense? How would you avoid being scammed by someone on Gumtree?
I would want to speak to them.
You take people's money before they've seen the house.
Yeah, I do take money.
But some people would say that's not common sense. Some people would say, why on earth would you pay Alasdair when you've not seen the house?
Yeah, I agree with that. But I've got good terms and conditions in place.
And a good reputation.
Good reputation, and I'll speak to anybody. Whereas most of these Gumtree leads, you can't ever speak to anybody. It's all done via email. There's never any personal touch. Yeah. I'm accessible. I have a website. I have all my address, all my details on the website. I'm, like I say, anyone can contact me.
Yeah.
I'm not here today, gone tomorrow. Whereas these Gumtree guys are. I do hope you're not putting me in the same category as these Gumtree people.
Not at all. So my thoughts are, feel free to pay a sourcer, but only if you know how to do it yourself and you're trying to save yourself time.
Yeah.
Or you just have no intention of going. Here's another one. If you've no intention of going into property and you've got a business that's making a lot of money and you want to dump that profit into property, but you can't be bothered, you haven't got the time or the inclination to learn about property, then fine. Find a good person you can trust that can find the properties, do all the hands and feet on the ground stuff, pay them, no problem.
Yep.
If you have the knowledge and you want to save yourself time, no problem. But don't think it's a shortcut. You know, get
100%.
the education, because otherwise deal packages will pull the wool over your eyes.
100%.
Because you can make a deal look fantastic on paper,
Yeah.
but in reality it cannot stack up.
The problem is there's too many dodgy deal sources out there.
Well,
They're everywhere.
unfortunately, there's good and there's bad people in every industry.
business, yeah.
There's good and bad, in every industry. There's always good and bad people. So, so just get the knowledge. I think.
I completely agree with
Every YouTube video I ever do, whether it's Thoughtful Thursday, whether it's Winners Wednesday, whether it's Mentoring Monday, the conclusion is always get educated and get the knowledge. So I think.
I agree with you. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if I didn't get educated.
Yeah.
I
So
would
don't
say
let
bang
anyone
on,
pull the
get
wool over
educated.
your eyes. You know, buy from deal packages. Also, if you want to learn about property, a really good way to learn is to do.
Mm-hmm.
So to pay a deal packager, you're actually robbing yourself from the experience of figuring out the process.
Well, the reality is, I actually became an accidental deal sourcer. I didn't choose to do deal sourcing.
Yeah.
It's because I was out doing it all, like looking all the time.
You were looking for a lease option agreement for
Yeah.
yourself,
and
then
I
you ended up
finding loads.
yeah.
And just
HMOs.
what do you do with all these deals? So I thought, let's do deal sourcing.
That's right.
But because I was out there doing it, learning, so yeah, I just get out there.
I encourage people to do deal packaging. But again, if you're if you're a deal packager, do it, but just do it properly.
Yeah.
Do it ethically. Only sell a house that you would be prepared to buy yourself if you were under the right circumstances to buy it.
I think it comes down to the person, because doesn't matter what business this a dodgy person's in. They could make deal sourcing dodgy. They could make buying cars and selling cars dodgy.
Yeah.
If they're a dodgy type of person, they'll always be dodgy. If they're good people, they'll always do good. Doesn't matter what business they're in.
I mean, if you're in the right kind of circles, like I know with us at the Crash Course on the Academy, we've got dozens of deal packages on the Academy.
Yes.
They're all brilliant.
They're all very ethical, yeah.
Because they've been trained well. So that's awesome. So if you're considering buying a property from a deal packager, do it, but get the knowledge first so they cannot pull the wool over your eyes.
100%.
And if you're a deal packager, continue doing it, kick some ass, but do it ethically, and always make sure you look after your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely
Awesome.
agree.
So that's this week's Thoughtful Thursday. We'll be here, same time next week. Put your comments below, subscribe. Also, if you've got any questions, bang on below and we'll do our best to answer. See you next time.